Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
John Boyega, the actor who plays Finn FN2187 in the new Star Wars sequel trilogy, is opening up a little bit about his feelings on the films that he's been in. And we're ending it with The Rise of Skywalker and the conclusion of his character. And he was in an interview with Hyperbeast, and they asked him just kind of what it was like doing it. And he says, playing Finn has been a journey. Definitely at times very, very stressful in terms of the commitment, the work ethic. It's very different for any Star Wars film or any film of that magnitude, actually, which was definitely something that I had to adjust to. But playing Finn, it's been fun to play. The next paragraph talks about the progression of his character in the Star Wars sequel trilogy so far, leading up to The Rise of Skywalker. They say Finn's arc in this new Star Wars trilogy has tracked his journey to break away from the conformity of the First Order stormtroopers and discover his own identity. However, the follow-up film, The Last Jedi, sidetracked that character progression, much to the chagrin of fans and Boyega himself. And John Boyega says, The Force Awakens, I think, was the beginning of something quite solid. The Last Jedi, if I'm being honest, I'd say was feeling a little bit iffy for me. I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of the choices in that, and that's something that I spoke to Mark Hamill about a lot, and we had conversations about it. And it was hard for all of us because we were separated. Now, I believe when he's saying we were separated, he's talking about the three main characters of our sequel trilogy, the trio of characters that we normally get with every episodic Star Wars film. You have each trilogy having their own set of three characters that we follow. The prequels had Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme, and then the original trilogy, we of course had Luke, Han, and Leia. The sequels, as we know, is about Rey, Finn, and Poe, and it's been interesting considering that they haven't really been on screen together up until, maybe a few seconds at the end of The Last Jedi, and we know we're going to get them together a lot in The Rise of Skywalker. But I like hearing that John Boyega's opening up a little bit about his feelings about The Last Jedi. I know a lot of people just want to hear actors who were involved with it bash on The Last Jedi. I am admitting some bias here. I was not a fan of the film at all. And Finn's character arc was definitely one of the weakest points in that film for me because I felt like The Last Jedi was just repeating the character arc that Finn had in The Force Awakens. And I rewatched The Force Awakens this past week, and I'll admit, there's a lot of parts that I enjoy that of course involve the character of Finn. I really liked his dynamic with Poe Dameron in the opening sequence, just kind of their chemistry throughout the film. It felt like a nice friendship, like they were the best buds that we kind of always wanted to see, that we really didn't get to see in the prequels with Anakin and Obi-Wan. And you saw a little bit of it with Han and Luke, but the main characters for the original trilogy was mostly about Luke going on his journey as a Jedi, and then Han and Leia kind of having their little romance start and begin in that trilogy. With this trilogy, I was assuming that Rey was going to go off on her adventure, and we would get Finn and Poe kind of teaming up in the second film to kind of go on theirs and, bond their friendship a little more and everything. I mean, that would have been something I think I would have enjoyed a lot more. So it's kind of disappointing to watch The Last Jedi and feel like Finn's character didn't really progress at all. The most that his character did was have that self-sacrifice at the end where he was going to die to save the Resistance. And then in comes the best part of the movie, Rose Tico coming in to save the day, crashes into his ship, gives him the most awkward kiss I think I've ever seen in film history. I mean, that was just weird. I mean, I remember watching that film as it happened in 2017 and being like, what the fuck is going on here? But Finn's character was interesting in The Force Awakens. He went from a guy just trying to run away from all his problems, trying to run away from the First Order, trying to run away from the battle and the big conflict of the galaxy. Like, I feel most people would, if we're being honest. I mean, why would you sacrifice yourself for a bunch of people you don't know? But he becomes friends with Rey. He cares about her a lot. They have a good dynamic. He has a good dynamic with Poe. He was the most interesting character, in my opinion, of the sequel trilogy. Then you get to The Last Jedi, and he just repeats that. He's trying to run away again, then he doesn't run away, he helps out the Resistance. Well, he doesn't really help out, actually, because him and Rose fail their mission, so that movie's all about being a failure, if I recall. And it just kind of felt like his character didn't go anywhere. It didn't really evolve into a better version of himself. He just was going to kill himself at the end, and thank God for Rose, I guess, because she came in and prevented that from happening. Because it's not about fighting what we hate, it's about saving what we love. What the fuck does that even mean? But I like hearing John Boyega open up a little bit. I like hearing his thoughts on it. I like hearing that he was talking to Mark, because we know Mark Hamill was a very open critic of the choices that were made in The Last Jedi. And this is what we as fans like to hear. Not, the actors bashing on a film in the Star Wars universe, but hearing their thoughts on the choices that were made, whether they liked them or didn't like them, We know people like Harrison and Mark and even Carrie Fisher for the original trilogy constantly bashed Lucas on his writing and specifically the dialogue. And, Harrison always would say, George, you can write this, but you can't say it. And he's got a point there. But it's nice to hear that someone like John Boyega, one of the main actors of this trilogy, feels what we, the fans, also feel when it comes to The Last Jedi. A lot of us disagree with the choices that were made in that film. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people were happy with the subversion of expectations. And if that is you, good. I'm really glad you enjoyed that film. But for most of us Star Wars fans that did not enjoy it, it's nice to hear that John Boyega and people like Mark Hamill also share that same sentiment of being disappointed with the character arc of Finn. I'm mostly disappointed with the character arc of Luke Skywalker in that film. But anyways, it's nice to hear John Boyega open up about it. I feel like we're going to get a lot more of the behind-the-scenes stories that the actors and other people involved with the making of these films, what their thoughts are on the films that they were involved with in the years to come. Because now that the sequel trilogy is coming to an end, normally after the films end, we get a lot more backstory. And we'll be getting a lot of backstory to the films for the next 10 to 20 years, as various interviews happen with different media outlets about different movies that these actors are going to be in. We're going to hear them open up a little bit more on their thoughts on the sequel trilogy and where it could have gone, where it did go. But it is nice to hear someone like John Boyega kind of share the same feelings that a lot of Star Wars fans had about his character. I mean, a lot of us were disappointed with it. I certainly was. And it's nice to hear John Boyega was a little, not disappointed, but he just said iffy, which is very kind for saying. I didn't agree with it, But, John Boyega's a good guy. I like him. So tell me your thoughts below. What do you guys think about John opening up about The Last Jedi and his thoughts on his sequel trilogy character arc so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all next time, and may the Force be with you always.